Are we rolling?
We are rolling. We are rolling.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Everybody, hello and welcome back to the Gomer's YouTube channel. As you know from previous videos, it's where we like to showcase different things that are going on in the store, different wine, spirits, and beers from time to time. And also when we have great people in town, like we do today, we like to kind of take some time out of our schedule and talk specifically about what's going on with that vineyard or that distillery. And today we have David Muir from DAOU. He is the National Sales Director, so he is over the entire country.
Yeah. I don't get to call on Hawaii or Alaska.
Oh shoot. Shoot.
So, yeah, but I've got the other 48.
Yeah, you were saying that I asked you here a little bit ago, kind of where do you live or where do you hail from, and you kind of said Marriott.
Yeah, so I live in Marriott. I spent the last 31 years in Atlanta, then I moved to Charleston, and then my girlfriend said you kind of need to make Massachusetts your home. So I still have a place in Atlanta, I still have a place in Charleston, and hopefully I still have a place in Massachusetts.
Right.
But so yeah, I'm with DAOU Family Vineyards, and I've been doing this 26 years.
Wow.
So I used to work for some other wineries, and between the two of us, if we have questions, we'll just make up some answers and we'll figure it out from there.
Yeah,
but
that works for me. The audience is kind of used to that.
Yeah, you've got your private computer.
That's right.
You can check up on me here. That wasn't true what he said.
Yeah.
So what I like to do is talk about what I call the 4 Ps of DAOU.
Okay.
That's the people, most importantly, the place, the product, and I add in the 4th P, which is passion. Because if you've ever met anybody, including the family of DAOU, the passion is what really drives us.
Yeah.
So I like to talk about kind of where we started, how we got here, and then we'll go through the product.
Yeah, because the story of the family and the brothers is just it's kind of an overplayed phrase maybe, but that quintessential American dream.
It is.
Rags to riches, or not necessarily rags because their family was very successful.
But they did become rags.
Yeah.
And then they became riches again.
Yeah, but no, it's just the story is just fantastic.
Yeah, it is. And people remember stories, and stories. How long it spends in wood is usually not that important to me. But if I can tell the story about the two brothers and how they got here, people will remember that. And where we come from. So that being said, start to finish, kind of from 50,000 feet. 2 brothers, so we're family run, family owned. George and Daniel DAOU. The last name obviously is DAOU. I'll refer to Daniel as Danny. So Danny's our winemaker. We say that Danny does everything inside the bottle and George does everything outside the bottle. So kind of the yin and the yang.
Gotcha.
So the 2 brothers were born in Beirut, and the Civil War starts, and the first bomb went off in front of their house by mistake. George DAOU in a coma for 4 days. Danny DAOU still has paralysis. They both still have shrapnel in their bodies. Obviously, the whole family survived. Their dad was Lebanese. Their mom was French. Okay. So when they were able to regroup, they moved to France from Lebanon. And the 2 brothers grew up there with their sister. And eventually, George DAOU, the older brother, by I believe 4 years, wanted to come to the United States and study engineering, and came to Southern California, University of Southern California, studied engineering. His younger brother, Danny, followed his big brother and studied different types of engineering. So at this point, no real wine, other than Danny liked to consume wine and collect wine. They then started what was called DAOU Systems, and this was before the internet, and this allowed doctors to transfer files remotely and securely between offices. They went public with the company, they eventually sold it, and they did well, and they retired. George DAOU moves to Argentina, learns how to play professional polo.
Okay.
Danny DAOU teaches himself how to make wine in his garage and spends the next 8 years traveling the world, learning how to make wine and looking for a place to start a winery. He became that much in love with wine. So about 16 years ago, he looked in Bordeaux, he looked in Napa, he looked in South America. Danny discovered a mountain in Paso Robles, so halfway between LA and San Francisco.
Okay.
That was discovered in 1965 by Andrei Telechev, who is really the godfather of Cabernet for California. He used to work for people like BV and Robert Mondavi. And what Untitled Chapter discovered on this mountain, we had the same soil as the left bank of Bordeaux, which is calcareous clay with limestone. But at 2,200 feet and 14 miles from the ocean, it had the same climate as Napa Valley, St. Helena. So the best of both worlds. He discovered the mountain for a gentleman named Dr. Hoffman, and it was called Hoffman Family Ranch. And he made wine there for many years, and eventually they stopped making wine. Danny discovers this mountain. There's nothing there. There's no water. There's no electricity. There are no buildings, and purchases the whole mountain, 212 acres, and renames it DAOU Mountain. Gets his brother to come in. George says, "Start a winery. Why would I want to start a winery?" George drinks iced tea usually and doesn't really talk about wine. Danny said, "Well, the last venture we had worked out well, and I've taught myself how to make wine, and we've found this location. We're gonna make some of the best wines that will stand next to the best wines in the world."
Yeah.
So they agreed. They buy the mountain. Danny moves his family from San Diego to a double wide on the property and starts planting the first few acres by himself. Fast forward 16 years later, we're now the fastest growing domestic brand in the country. So Danny again is a winemaker, and George is a visionary. Danny has children. They're being brought up in the winery, so it's being passed down to the second generation, and it's all about the family.
That's awesome.
And it's so awesome.
That is really, really
so
cool.
That's really kind of the people and the place.
Yeah.
So let's kind of talk about some of the products. We're really known for Cabernet Sauvignon. We just got the first 100-point score ever from Paso Robles.
Wow,
so
very cool.
That's amazing. And we've now gone, I believe, 13 years without anything being under 90 points. So we are the poster child for points, and we are the anomaly in the industry right now.
Yeah. What do you think makes? You mentioned Paso. What do you think makes? I mean, you've got all these AVAs up and down, the coast, Washington, Oregon, California. There's Santa Lucia, Santa Rita, Napa, and all that. What do you think makes Paso so special and particularly with what DAOU has done in Paso?
Yeah. So when you ask about Paso, Paso is bigger than Napa and Sonoma put together. Paso's enormous. So you can't really say you're just from Paso, because you can be from this part of Paso and be 120 degrees, or you can be on DAOU Mountain and usually not even get to 100 degrees. There's 11 sub-appellations in Paso.
Okay.
We're in Adelaida. We actually make a reserve Chardonnay from Willow Creek, which is one of the cooler regions within Paso. So depending on where you are in Paso, depends on what kind of climate you have.
Gotcha.
And especially if you get to 2,200 feet, where we are, the tallest mountain above the cloud line, we usually don't get to 100 degrees, and we have what's called a diurnal swing of 50 degrees. So we'll get to say 95, at night we'll go down to 45 degrees. So it allows the grapes to rest, whereas a lot of Paso, it's 110 degrees and it stays 110 degrees, and you have to actually acidify, because the grapes don't get the acidity because they get too warm and they don't get to rest.
Gotcha.
So we're one of the few places that has that diurnal swing, and it makes it perfect for Cabernet Sauvignon, whereas a lot of people will grow Rhone varietals because they like it hotter. But up on the mountain, we actually have snow on top of the mountain. And I say to people, people come from downtown and it's 110 degrees and they're in shorts and a shirt. By 3:30 in the afternoon, it's freezing up there. I bet we sell more sweatshirts than we do wine, because it's so cold on top of the mountain. It's really a very unique place versus the rest of Paso. There's no other place in Paso Robles, even in California, that has the soil of Bordeaux, but the climate. So the best of both worlds.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. You need to come see it.
Yeah.
And you can stay the whole day. There's a full restaurant. There's Adirondack chairs. You hang out there, and you try to stay warm.
Yeah. Fun. That sounds like a great time.
It's a lot of fun.
That's
It really is.
fun.
So again, we're really known for Cabernet Sauvignon. We make 4 different Cabernet Sauvignons. We have what's called our Discovery Series, which you have here in the store, probably $26 or so. Then you jump up to our Reserve, which runs around $50 to $60.
Yep.
And then you jump to our Soul of a Lion, which is our flagship. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then we have one more called Patrimony, that we're actually building a separate winery just to do patrimony.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot going on. We're building 2 more wineries right now. We just bought a property by Hearst Castle. That'll be called DAOU Ocean. We have pop-up tasting rooms at Mammoth Mountain. We are very disruptive, and the DAOU brothers are serious.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that is
it is so cool.
That is very cool. That
Yeah.
kind of speaks to when I was, last night was kind of, after we got home from some basketball and was kind of sitting down and kind of getting into the evening. It's like, oh yeah, I got, the DAOU guy's coming tomorrow. I need to brush up on the history. And I thought it was interesting that when Danny went to tell his father, said, hey, I'm gonna buy this wine, I'm gonna buy this mountain, and his dad says, go and don't look back, go full throttle.
For sure.
It just kind of speaks
Yeah.
to when you said, hey, they're being disruptive, and
Yeah.
this is their passion, this is the family passion, and then let's just go for it.
Yep. If we're gonna
Yeah.
do it, we're gonna do it 100%.
Yeah.
110%.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do it right.
Yeah.
We're not just gonna do it. We're gonna do it right.
Mm-hmm.
So the attention to detail between the 2 brothers and the family is unprecedented. It's if we're gonna do it, what's the best way we can do it? What are the best grapes we can get? The
Mhm.
best barrels, the best winemaking techniques. We have our own yeast strand. We found 200 yeasts that grew indigenously on top of DAOU Mountain.
Okay.
We had them analyzed. We found one that will live at higher temperatures during fermentation, which gives us the color that we get. It's called D20, DAOU 20. We now sell that to Bordeaux producers and Napa producers. So it's everything from yeast to barrels to everything.
Yeah. Wow.
Make sure we're going to do it, and we're going to do it right.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that being said,
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. The 2 first wines that we're going to taste here, everything until now was all in French oak.
Okay.
We're actually going to taste the wine here in a second. The first time we've ever used American oak. But the first wine that we're going to taste is our DAOU Rosé. It's the 3rd vintage we've made of this. This is a 2021, which is brand new for us.
Okay.
This does not see any oak, so this is all stainless steel. It's 100% Grenache, which we used to actually blend in Sauvignon Blanc, but this vintage 100% Grenache Noir. The bottle is made for us, especially just for us in France, and the label is made to go in an ice bath, and the label won't come off like a paper label would. So it's all about attention to detail. So this is, go on your patio, by your pool, put it in an ice bath,
Yeah.
and enjoy it.
Oh,
and
very
for
good.
me, this is made in a Provence style, but a lot of those Provençal wines can kind of just be acidic water.
Mhm.
For me, coming from where it's a little warmer, I get so much mouthfeel and texture, whereas a lot of rosés are kind of, like I said, acidic water. It's like Pinot Grigio can be sometimes, depending
Yes.
on where it's from. For me, tropical fruits, guava, pineapple,
Mhm.
and then such mouthfeel. It's almost grippy.
I was just gonna say it's got some weight.
Yeah.
It's not heavy by any means, but there is definitely some weight and some great body to that, which just
For sure.
very rounded. And it just goes.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful wine,
This is
and
phenomenal rosé.
I'm not going to say it because I work for the winery, but I taste a lot of rosés, and my girlfriend and I drink a lot of rosé, and
Mm-hmm.
we pull more DAOU samples of rosé than anything else. And I actually get calls from my boss like, "You're not responsible for rosé. Why are you pulling so many samples of rosé?" And I have to admit, I'm like, because it's so good.
Because it's so good.
So yeah. So cheers to
Oh,
that.
cheers.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, this
for
is
cheers.
great.
And thanks you all for coming.
Mm.
And you have this in the store.
We have this in the store. Yes.
Okay. Price point would be.
I don't remember. If I had to guess, 15, 16?
That's a great
Does
price.
that sound about right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great price.
Yeah, I would
Somewhere
think-
under 20.
Yeah, it's definitely under 20.
Yeah.
I want to say it's like 15.98, 16.97.
Yeah, okay.
Right in that
Yep.
price point.
And do you have it in the cold box too?
Mhm, we do have it in the cold box.
It's ready to go.
Yep, it is ready to go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So then we jump into 2 new wines that we've never made before.
Yeah.
The first one here is Bodyguard Chardonnay, and this is really interesting because it's so different from what we normally do. So to start, we do Soul of a Lion Cabernet Sauvignon, which is in honor of their father.
Okay.
So we want to do something in honor of their mom. So we made Bodyguard red, and there's a woman on the front label embracing the child, being the bodyguard, getting them out of Beirut, out of the Civil War, to France, and eventually to the United States. So this year we wanted to make a sister wine, so we made Bodyguard Chardonnay. First time we've ever made it. Also the first time we've gone really outside of Paso Robles. So this is Santa Barbara appellated.
Okay.
Which is a great region for Pinot Noir and for Chardonnay. It's a cooler region. It's also the first time we've ever used American oak. So 30% of this is coming from Virginia. And stylistically, we do two other Chardonnays. We do what's called the Discovery Chard, which I saw in your cooler. And then we do Reserve Chard, which are very more Burgundian in style. This is California through and through.
Gotcha.
So much more opulent, much riper fruit, and I think it's an amazing Chardonnay, and very, very limited. It's never been in the state before. You're probably one of the first retailers or restaurateurs to actually taste it or even have it.
That's awesome.
And it only comes in 6-packs.
Okay. Very cool. Where would this retail, give or take?
Probably about $35.
Okay. All right. So it's right there with those other bigger.
Yeah, if you want to put it into a category, I would say Rombauer would be our biggest competitor.
Okay.
And it's that style, that
style.
California, really ripe fruit, some oak to it. You throw in the American oak, it changes the profile, whereas French oak is all about cooking spices. American oak can bring some dill and some coconut to it. But it still has all that acidity, whereas the oak can mask the fruit and the malolactic fermentation. So this goes through 100% malolactic fermentation, which is a secondary type of fermentation that gives it the butter flavor. It turns the malic acid, the malic acid into lactic acid. Lactic acid being what you get from milk or butter. So this goes through 100% of that. But again, it still has the acidity that it doesn't mask the fruit for me.
No, this is really delicious. Man, this is fantastic.
It's rich.
Yeah, it is not. This is a serious Chardonnay.
It's a serious Chardonnay, for sure.
This is serious. This is, this is fantastic.
Something brand new and something. Thank you for being the first in Missouri to carry it.
Yeah, we like that. We like that, and our customers like that. We, as we were talking before we started this, was we like to be the first in Kansas City. Sometimes we're the first in Missouri to taste, certain wines, because we have the fantastic customers that will support things. And
we're honored to be here.
Yeah, and I'm excited about this one too.
Yeah, this one is really exciting. So this is the first time we've ever made this. This is called Sequentis. Sequentis is Latin. It means to follow.
Okay.
This is 100% Merlot, and we're hoping that people will follow us and start making fantastic Merlot again, because there is great Merlot out there at great pricing, and we want people to follow us and get back on the Merlot bandwagon. So the first vintage we made 411 cases. This vintage actually is 1,400, so still very limited. 6-packs, 20 months in French oak.
Okay.
So this is a serious Merlot.
Okay.
People say, "Well, I don't like Merlot." No, what you don't like is bad Merlot.
Right. and yes, and there are. I mean, there's all wine is good wine. Yeah. But there are, I think, particularly when it does come to Merlot, there's those Merlots you taste it and you're like, that's just not good.
Right.
And it's at all different price points too.
For
it
sure.
could be at $9, it could be at $50 and all of that. But those Merlots that are well done and at various price points, and you taste it, you're like, ooh, that is good.
That's good.
That is really good. And then you're like, ooh, I like Merlot again.
Well, good Merlot's always been good. The problem was they created some bad Merlots, and now we have that problem with Pinot Noir. The prices are high, and some Pinot Noirs are just not worth the price.
Yes.
And so you're getting Pinot Noir like that now. So I tell people, if you're not looking at the Merlot section, either in a store or on a wine list, you're missing the boat because there's no gouging on, say, a Napa Cab or a Pinot Noir from Russian River. Merlot, the prices are great and the quality is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so the label is really interesting. This is Gideon.
Okay.
And Gideon is kind of a David and Goliath story. He had a very small army. He was a commander of an army, and he protected Israel versus a really larger army. So it's that David and Goliath story. Blew their horns and protected Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that comes from.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so
Very cool.
Again, the stories are
The stories are fantastic.
fun.
Yeah. That is Merlot.
It's delicious. It has structure. It has backbone. And again,
gosh.
there's nothing blended in there. That's 100% Merlot. But you put it into a French barrel for 20 months, almost 2 years. It's got grippiness.
Yeah.
It's got that texture,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not faint of the heart Merlot.
No, it's not. This is a big Merlot. But it is still just silky and sexy and
Sexy is the word I use.
Oh
for
my
that.
gosh, this is fantastic.
Right.
I don't even want to pour this one out.
We can pour it into your mouth. if you want.
I can do that. Yeah.
But I also would say it's a sexy man because
Mm.
it's not feminine. It's got masculinity.
No,
to
no.
it.
This
But
is
that's a sexy
This
man.
is bold. Yeah. This is fantastic. Oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that.
For sure. I think you're probably the
Man.
6th person in the state to ever taste that. I had it out yesterday and tasted a couple people. So
Mhm.
you're the first person.
Fantastic. I hope it was well received.
It was.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Yes, we're gonna sell every drop that we made.
Awesome.
So this is the Bodyguard Red. This is the 3rd vintage we've ever made of this. And again, this is in honor of their mother, Marie. And what's interesting about this one is it's a blend. It's Petit Verdeaux and
Mhm.
Petit Syrah. 58% Petit Verdeaux, 42% Petit Syrah, 14 months in French oak, 94-point rating, another 6-pack, and I think an amazing blend that you don't see out there very often because using that much Petit Verdeaux, it can be really tannic and hard to control.
Yes.
But with our special barrels and our yeast, this is approachable. We don't have to wait 20 years, and it's open it up, pop it, and let's go.
Oh, man.
And I know where I am. I'm in Kansas City,
Mhm.
and for me, barbecue and anything on a grill that has a char or a
Mhm.
barbecue is the perfect pairing for this.
We
So
love barbecue.
This is barbecue country.
Barbecue
This
country,
is
yes.
This is Bodyguard country.
Mm.
Nothing to do with Kevin Costner or Whitney Houston. Just about Marie the Mom. It's big.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say it's jammy. It's dry,
Mhm.
but it's a lot of really ripe fruit, dark
Yeah.
fruit.
Mhm. It's got this tobacco smoke, some spice on the
Yep.
end.
That's
Just-
barbecue.
Oh my gosh, this is barbecue. Wow.
That's the pairing right there.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Man, this is and then this would be for serious barbecue.
For sure.
This is great.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, fantastic wine.
We also make one called Pessimist, which you carry.
Yes, we carry that
and
one.
that also is a perfect barbecue pairing, and that's
Mhm.
Petit Syrah, Syrah, Zinfandel, and Lagreen, which is a northern Italian varietal that
Mhm.
we also grow on the west coast and the central coast of California. And that one is usually a $25 bottle,
Mhm.
and that one also pairs perfectly
Yeah.
with barbecue.
That's a great bottle as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, and a really cool label with a lot
Yeah.
of stories, but we won't tell that story today.
Okay. All right.
The last story
The
we're going to talk
flagship.
about, the flagship. This is why we're here. This is called Soul of a Lion Cabernet Sauvignon. This just released. This is a new vintage. This is made in honor of their father. It's actually a memoir
Okay.
that they wrote about him. They asked him, what did you want to call it? He immediately said Soul of a Lion because that's how the family roared back from going through the war and losing all their money and coming to the United States. And they came back and roared with the Soul of a Lion. So that's what they named the memoir. And this is what we named this wine for. This is Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and Petit Verdeaux. It spends 22 months in barrels that are made just for us called Bois Rosé. Bois is French for wood, rosé meaning pink. So Danny DAOU was in the Trances forest and saw trees that were fallen and they had a pink hue to them. And they noticed that the grain was tighter than any grain he'd seen before. And he asked, what's the story behind these?
Yeah.
They said, well, they're called Bois Rosé, and some Bordeaux producers use them, but nobody in America uses them. And he thought that it would help with tannin management earlier.
Okay.
So we would cut the trees down, and we would leave them outside in 5 years to cure in France. Now we cut the trees down, we make the staves, we ship them to DAOU Mountain, and we leave them on top of DAOU Mountain to cure before we make the barrels. So really special barrels made for us. We have TCA-proof corks, so you'll never have a cork bottle of this wine. They're guaranteed. They're very expensive. We were kind of a guinea pig with another winery to see if it would work. It did work, and so now all of our estate wines will have TCA proof, and eventually the reserves next vintage, and then everything will have these corks.
Oh wow!
So you'll never have a cork bottle of wine. And this is the best of the best that we make on the mountain. We make 5,000 cases, so it's very limited. They come in 3-pack wooden boxes, 97-point scores. This is really what has put Paso on the map as a Cabernet Sauvignon producer that can rival the best of Napa and even the best of Bordeaux.
Yeah.
This is the one wine that has changed Paso forever.
That's fantastic.
That's really cool.
That's when you said, you know, Paso and Cabernet. That's one thing that we've noticed here at Gomer's is the last probably 4 years, maybe as many as 6, is that a lot of our Napa consumers or Napa customers were kind of like, yeah, Napa's good, but it's the big bowl jammy thing. What else is out there? And they started venturing into Paso cabs.
Yep.
And now it seems like Paso maybe kind of recognized that, and now there's more fantastic wines like Soul of the Lion that are being produced. Do you think was that an accident? Was that just a
that was
a thing, or
no? That was Danny discovering this mountain and realizing that you've got this soil that the same is left bank of Bordeaux that has just amazing qualities to it that you don't see. It drains really well, and then again at 2,200 feet with the climate of Napa Valley, so we can do what Napa Valley does at half the price. This will stand next to the Screaming Eagles.
Oh,
this will stand next to Corrigan.
Yeah.
You know, we actually did, what's really funny is we did what was called the Judgment of Passo.
Okay.
So we called a famous writer, I won't say his name, and we said, we want you to come down and bring 5 wines that you gave perfect scores to, 100 points, and taste blind against ours. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. Why not? Well, I just don't do it. Well, why not?
Yeah.
So eventually he's like, all right. So he came down and he brought 5 wines, and I won't name the wines because they're all great wines, but they're all very expensive wines. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
They are the cult wines of Napa Valley.
Okay.
We lined up his wines, and then we put in Soul of a Lion, and he went through the 6 wines, and he smelled them, and he tasted them, and before he scored, he looked at Danny DAOU and he said, well, the good news is I don't know what's Napa and what's Paso. So far you're good to go.
Wow.
We actually got the second highest score. He gave one of those wines another perfect score, 100 points. We got 98 points, and I'll just say that we are a quarter of the price of what that Napa Valley producer was. So the Judgment of Passo has changed what Cabernet Sauvignon is. We actually also have the only optical sorter in Paso, I believe still. Opus 1 uses it. Joseph Phelps for Insignia. We bought it for the 2015 vintage for Soul of the Lion, which was a cooler vintage and hard to make sure that the grapes were ripe.
Okay.
So this machine, once it destems the berries, they come down on a conveyor belt, and it looks at every single berry with a laser, whereas the human eye couldn't pick it up. And if it's not perfectly right, it hits it with a puff of air, and it goes into a bin, and you would never get that as a human being. But this machine, which is over $1 million, really saved our 2015 vintage. So again, we do everything we can to make sure that this is the best wine that we possibly can bring to the consumer and to you as a retailer.
That's fantastic.
So
man.
yeah. So there's a lot happening at DAOU. This is just a handful of what we have to offer. We have everything from Sauvignon Blanc to something called Patrimony, and again, we're building 2 more wineries, another tasting room downtown. So come to Paso and enjoy DAOU wines and enjoy the other wines from Paso, because I think there's now 400 wineries or something.
Oh my
like
gosh!
that.
Wow,
And,
that's
so
fantastic.
They're everywhere.
Wow,
it's
Paso's
really
not a secret anymore.
No, Paso is not a secret. It's hard to get to.
Yeah.
Especially from the East Coast. You either fly into San Jose or San Francisco or LA, and then you've got, I don't know, 3.5, 4 hour drive. Unless you can fly into San Luis Obispo, which that's the best place to fly into, but again, it's not a big airport. So Paso's it's a destination, but once you get there, you can stay in downtown. It has hotels and beautiful restaurants and wineries to galore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic, man.
Yeah, that's kind of the people, the place, the product, and the passion all rolled into
Four
one.
Ps. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Very, very cool. Well, David, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time. I know you're busy when you do come into town, but
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for your business.
Yep. Thank you.